So let's look at this spread. What I am sensing, first of all, is, I mentioned this is divine intervention, okay? Things are going to be in your favor because, first of all, this is your card. And secondly, you're in the upright position. So I feel that, whatever situation that you've had running through in the past, you are in the upright position. So you were trying to do that the correct way. And if you look at this situation, this is what I saw when the first card first fell out, okay? It's sort of like paying homage to the supreme ruler. I know it sounds weird, but I have to say it mainly because I'm seeing it, okay? So it's kind of like paying due respect, paying due reverence to the person in charge, okay? So just knowing that whatever success that you're hoping to achieve, whatever situation that you're hoping to turn in your favor, what you have to do is, it's kind of like paying deference to whoever it is that is in your life that has helped you in the past, okay? So it's kind of like knowing who contributed to your success. And I do feel in this way, it is a power that is outside of ourselves that is helping you along this way, even though this card is in the reverse position. But what I am seeing here is, it's sort of like the soldiers marching back to his king. And with it, the spoils of war is what I'm getting. And because the soldier is paying respect and giving the king, and the king is basically, somebody that is on your side, but this is a bigger cosmic energy here. So because the soldier is paying his due respect to the king is going to be instrumental in lifting this blockage for you. Okay, so that's a very strong energy I am sensing here. And I know it's going to sound a little weird, but I do feel that it is going to be applicable to somebody out there, all right? So regardless of whatever, religious background or whatever you believe in, I do feel that a little bit of spiritual prayer or even thanking the universe for everything that you have in your life right now will unblock this situation for you, okay? So coming in the first 3 weeks, it is really, really important to realize your roots. So basically, for example, a lot of you might have like falling out with people in your family, for example, people who have brought you up, who have raised you. It's actually a good time. You don't have to agree on everything with another person. And family relationships can be deep rooted and they can be very, very complex. And when we know too much about our family members, our loved ones, people who know all of our business, it's really difficult to have that very, detached middle ground. So you have to agree to disagree. Okay, that's like that's the mature way of doing it. And I do feel that you are in the right in this situation. The other person might not be, but if you're dealing with like parents, if you're dealing with relatives, if you're dealing with like family members who might be very stubborn, who might not want to agree to disagree, they just, they're very fixed in their beliefs and they want you to do it their way or not at all. So they don't want to have a relationship with you. If that's the case, I do feel in general, if they contributed to your upbringing, okay, it is important to let bygones be bygones and come back and give this person the thanks that that they, just give them the due thanks, mainly because they did contribute to your upbringing. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you, but I do feel that is in order here. And June is also, the time of Father's Day. So I would say, if that's somebody that's been difficult in the past, come back and say, Dad, I'm really glad that you raised me this way, for example, or Mom, anybody in your life that contributed to your upbringing. You have to come back and realize where your roots are so that you can move forward, okay? When we don't know where we come from, it's really hard for us to figure out where we're going to go and where we're going to end up. In the process of doing that, the universe is going to lift this severe blockage for you. It is going to turn this card upside down so that you end up with a new beginning, okay? It's the day of reckoning. This is a card of family reunion, okay? Casting aside your differences and just learning to accept one another and learning to love one another unconditionally, because ultimately we only have one set of family members. So it is really important to you know, if you're dealing with like troublesome relatives, elder relatives, or parents, you're going to have to take the high road here, okay, as a new generation, because parents are not going to be in the picture for long. So it's just important to cast our pride, cast everything aside, and just deal with people on a human level, okay? We are all different in our own ways, but we all contribute to society's, you know, function. So we all have a role in this universe. So it's really important to keep that in mind and be the bigger person in this situation if you're dealing with a difficult person. Okay, so yeah, this is actually in the reverse position. So that's a family-oriented situation, okay? In other aspects of your life, it's going to play out differently, but I would say even a boss, like even so a supervisor, a manager at work, that's going to be required as well. And it's going to bring in new beginnings for you, okay? At least a new perspective, a new point of view in how to tackle new situations and how to get things moving, okay? So it's kind of like this blockage is going to be able to be lifted if you get to the heart of the matter or if you go straight to the boss, okay? It's like the soldier marching back and giving the spoils of war to his king. You're going to have to give a little bit of yourself in order to lift this blockage for yourself. For those of you who are in a relationship, so let's talk about this, because someone has asked me about, you know, the Aries reading. So I actually want to see how this is going to play out for you, especially for those Aries involved with an earth sign. Okay, so this is an earth sign, male or female. In this spread, he is coming up as a he's coming up as a male. You're not going to be able to get the new beginning with this person for this month, okay? So for example, if this person has been, he's in the reverse position, it could also be a she, but I do feel in general that if we're looking at this as a piece of the Celtic cross, this is the situation here. At the heart of the matter, he or she has not changed. They're not going to change their ways. And if you're dealing with somebody who has like lied or cheated in the past, that's what's going to come in for you this month, okay? They're not going to change. They're just not going to change. This is what's coming in, and this looks very painful. This is somebody who is very unscrupulous, who doesn't really have a moral compass, and who operates in, you know, on sheer self-interest. They don't really care about another person. So this is a situation that could come in for you guys for this month. And on top of that, what's crowning you is this, you know, lack of new beginning. So lack of a resolution, lack of a closure so that you can move forward, okay? That's just not going to happen with this person. There's a very stubborn, obstinate energy here. And I do feel that in general, is not going to be resolved this month. It's just not going to be, mainly because we have the card of prayer, we have a card of waiting, we have a little bit of a unresolved conflict, and it's kind of like taking a break from the other person so that you both can maintain your own sense of like, so it's sort of like this. If you are arguing and you have like a very strong stance and you want to argue, you know, based on whatever it is that you believe in, like based on the values that you espouse, I do feel that this person is quite intelligent. So in the process of arguing with them, you might lose your train of thoughts. You might lose your confidence in your argument. You might also lose you might want to compromise your integrity, you know, because they're so eloquent and they're smug about it, which is not nice, you know. So you might be dealing with that situation. If you are, and then you need to take a step back so that you don't lose your footing, okay? So you need to take some time off to really refine your argument. Sword energies are mental energies. It is also taking a time off to, you know, quiet your mind and figure out what it is that you're fighting for, okay, is what I'm sensing here. Because in the greater scheme of things don't really matter, okay? So if you're arguing on technicalities with the other person, and they, you know, they're just very eloquent and they have like foolproof arguments, and you're operating, like both of you, not just you, but the other person is operating from a place of ego. Don't let them get to you. Choose not to get involved in that debate in the first place, okay? And in general, I do feel that through the looking glass, okay, looking back at this situation, it's something that you invested a great deal of love and affection into. This was somebody that you once cherished a really nice and a very emotionally fulfilling relationship with, and your head is in that phase, okay? So if you are kind of like pining for the past a little bit, and if you are trying to like rationalize why this person is the way they are and making excuses for them, that can be a little bit problematic. So I would urge you to like look at the reality of the situation now, how you both interact now, rather than who that person, he or she was, or, you know, was in the past. So have a very objective view of this situation, because and I say this all the time, I honestly don't believe people change, okay? It takes like people hitting rock bottom, and even then they change in a very biased way. They change so that it fits their situation, and you know, it's not true change. So they might revert back when their rock bottom gets elevated. So I hope that makes sense. But just be very careful, okay? Because you could end up in like a fool's paradise, in which you're putting your trust and faith in the wrong person. You're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they might screw up again, you know, essentially. So just be very careful about that, okay? If you're dealing with like an earth energy, a Capricorn, a Virgo, or a Taurus. At the same time, another way that this can play out is, you know, you are a fire sign, they're an earth sign. So already there's great incompatibilities, okay? In terms of communication style, in terms of values, beliefs, philosophical outlooks, and, you know, even upbringing. I'm sensing a little bit of, yeah, just, you know, innate differences that makes it very difficult to fit these two people, you and the other person, into a relationship. And in a work partnership situation, there might be questionable integrity that we're dealing with, okay? So in every type of an interpersonal relationship with this other person, it is going to be problematic. I do feel like in a love relationship, there's a great deal of emotional attraction, physical attraction, emotional rapport. Innately, you both are very good people, but somehow together, there's like a very jarring energy, like a lot of incompatibilities that makes it difficult for this relationship to be stable. So just know that if that's something that you're dealing with, you really have to take time off and figure out why things are happening like this over and over again, why two really good people just can't get along. Okay, so that's another way that that can play out for a lot of you Aries. If you're tired of the fighting, you don't have to engage in it, okay? So like I mentioned earlier, if you're, depending on where you're operating, so for example, if you are operating from a place of you know, arguing over technical things just to see who gets the last word, I feel like, you know, that person might be doing that, and they might provoke you into engaging into this verbal debate with you, and it's not conducive for any type of good feelings between the two of you. So don't engage with them, okay? Just choose to like take a step back. I don't feel like you can walk away. Take a step back and deal with this at a later date, okay? What I am sensing here too, and I just have to say this mainly because it is going to be applicable to somebody out there. Okay, so for example, I feel more so for women. Yeah, women. So for example, you started dating somebody, and it can be any other sign, okay? It doesn't have to be an earth sign. You started dating somebody, and they're not very open about what they do for a living. And, you know, it's gone to the point where you're in it very deep, like you really care about this person. And then you find out that they might resort to like illegal activities in order to make money, and you're hesitating whether or not you want to get involved with them. But I do feel that this person in general doesn't mean any harm. They're actually a very good person at heart, and they have to resort to that so that they can give the people they love nice things. Okay, so ultimately materialism is at the heart of the matter, but they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it to like be able to afford nice things for the people they love. So yeah, I'm getting like a lot of you might be dealing with somebody like that, and I just want you to know that they're really not a bad person. Okay, I mean, I never judge people based on what they do in life, like on their, you know, for money, for work, for their profession. I just don't judge people. And ultimately, it's important to know the reason behind it. I feel like it's important to know. So you can ask them to be very candid about the reason for it. But I do feel this person might have a lot of pride too, so they're not going to be upfront with you about it. But I do feel that whatever they're doing, they feel it's funding a good cause, okay? They either want to take care of their mom, they either want to take care of like a little sister, putting a little sister through school, for example, or they might try to, you know, give you like nice things, okay, if you're in a relationship with them. So I don't feel a resolution is going to happen for this month. So take some time off and really think about whether or not whatever you decide to do. I do feel in general as a fire sign, you have very high moral standards, okay? All fire signs in general, Sagittarius, Leo, Aries, all fire signs have very, very high moral standards. You normally don't compromise your values, okay? Once you have your mind made up about something being right or wrong, you live your life in accordance with what's right, and you don't really compromise, and you don't like it when other people compromise either. Um, so in this situation, it is about, you know, you're in a tough spot. It is about relationship, but it is also about compromise. But don't lose yourself in the relationship where you're compromising your values and the things that you believe in. Despite this person being a very good-hearted person, I do sense that, you know, they are operating. I just don't feel they're a bad person, but they are operating from a place of like low vibration. They're materialistic. They feel that, you know, they're coming from a place of lack too. They might have like grown up in poverty. They might not have had like all this money at their disposal when they were young. And because of it, they want to build up that base, that financial base. And in the process, they have to compromise their values as well and do things, you know, under the radar in order to achieve whatever it is. So that's one way that this is playing out. And I know this is going to be applicable to somebody because I'm feeling it quite strongly. So just know that this decision is contingent upon you. But I would strongly urge you, you know, don't compromise your values, okay? Just because this is something that the other person has to go through and they have to experience and they have to come into terms with. And it is going to be an ethical dilemma for them as well because they have a good heart. It is going to be something that they have to grapple with as an ethical dilemma further down the line because they don't see it yet. So don't get caught up in other people's, not mistakes. Don't get caught up in other people's life lessons, okay? So if you choose to extract yourself from this situation, I don't blame you. You're in a really tough spot, okay? But for those who are dealing with like cheaters in general, yeah, so I do feel at the same time it is a very difficult situation that you are going to have to make. And you are going to make this decision the second half of this month. So as Mercury is out of retrograde on the 11th, it's not going to be out of its shadow period until the very last week of June, but I do feel that once it's out, around the 15th and the 16th of this month, you are going to make that hard decision. And it's going to be really difficult for you initially to, you know, move forward with your life without the other person in the picture, for example, or that project, or, you know, whoever it is that you've had this run-in with. It's going to be difficult, okay? Don't backtrack because information that came to light in the time of Mercury retrograde is karmic. It's meant to be. And with full information, we can make informed choices. So if you've had to make an informed choice based on everything you now know, just know that you're doing the right thing, and that you have to do whatever is right for you, and you have divine guidance and intervention that is at work in your life to help you make those difficult decisions, okay? So don't doubt yourself, because years from now you're going to look back and you just realize that I did the right thing. And more than anything, you're going to realize that you didn't compromise your values despite, being put in a very difficult position. And I feel that for fire signs, more than anything, compromising your values, your beliefs, your sense of integrity is something that you're not happy with. So down the line, you don't want to live with regrets. If you compromise now, you are going to regret that later. And I know for a fact it is going to be very strong for fire signs. You want to do the morally right thing in all situations in your life, okay? So that's something that you want to be careful of for this month. This decision has to be made, and you're going to get like confirmation that you're on the right track, okay? So when you make it, there's that little period of like, when you're kind of like in limbo, but then towards the end of the month, you're going to be in a much better place, and you're going to realize it's the right thing to do. And despite all the setbacks, despite all the doubt, like that it was once such a good relationship and etc., it's not enough. It's not enough, okay? Sometimes things just run their course. And if you are trying to like reestablish, or remake this situation into whatever it used to be, it's not going to happen, is what I'm sensing here, okay? So when I mentioned earlier, if this is a family situation, like ailing parents or elderly relatives or parents even, then it's something that is in a spiritual way, it is going to clear up the blockage for you. If this is a lover, if it's somebody that you're not romantically involved with, I'm sorry, if it's a lover, somebody that you're not married to, it's not meant to be, okay? It's not meant to be in this situation. And if it's so I do feel here there is a very strong sense of like reclaiming your territory, knowing how and when and why you have to make those difficult decisions, because it's for the greater good of everyone involved, okay? So you're seeing outside of yourself. You're growing in emotional maturity. This is like the most emotionally mature that you can get when you have to make difficult decisions that might be hurtful to you and the other person in the short run, but you're looking at the bigger picture. So you're not going to regret it, okay? So you're on the right track here, Aries.